All right, Marshall, we're going to get into a controversial topic.
Oh.
Okay.
Hey, I like controversy.
You and I have been doing rinseless, waterless, for a very long time. Me, in the car collection world, you can't always move cars out of a 50 car collection. They're not all, you're not pulling all of them out and pressure washing them. Some of it's dangerous to pressure wash. So I've been doing the rinseless, waterless thing for 13, 14 years. You're probably 15 years deep. Let's talk about the misconceptions to start this. Every single one of these I've used in my career, I've had to up the lubrication or up the dilution 10x from what a manufacturer said.
Yeah.
What was your experience?
Yeah, always, right? Like, when I first got started, when I thought of rinseless, waterless, some of that confusion is definitely what hit me, which is why I went that waterless, more traditional waterless route. I wanted 100% of the product out on the paint when my towel touched the surface.
Same for me. I always used a hybrid where I would kind of use something like a tint keg, sprayer, that I was doing a bunch of cars. Yeah. So I needed some help getting it on cars. And you don't want to always sit there.
Well, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
But it got tiring.
We were more 1 to 2 a day type of, we were hitting it.
So let's talk about the setup of the bucket. Let's talk about the setup of the sprayer. Let's talk about what you need to do. So I got Eco 1 here, which is our hybrid waterless and rinseless. I like to use a little bit stronger pre-soak dilution than most people. Mm-hmm. I want product on there.
I do, yeah.
This is not the time to cheapen out. We're working on a $100,000 Range Rover. Why am I going to save a few pennies?
Yeah,
I see,
no sense
256 to 1, 250. It's nonsense. Okay, that is perfectly fine in a rinseless bucket, but your pre-soak,
it needs to be stronger.
It needs to be stronger. And I think guys get so enamored with, I can just cut this and I can save so much money. And then you look at their cars they've been taking care of and you go, well, you marred it, you scratched it, you have towel marks everywhere.
You question rinseless, you question waterless, and then you skimp when you do it.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and fill the bucket, right?
Yeah.
So we got a couple gallons of water in here. We got a couple towels in here. The towel is important.
It was ultimately why I never got into rinseless.
Yeah, that's a good point, because here's one of the things I think people have to understand. Costco towels, Sam's Club towel, they all have a place. Mm-hmm. They usually have a place in the engine bay, fender wells. They don't have any place on the paint.
Well, what also doesn't, in my opinion, which is why I couldn't get into it, was the sponge.
Yeah, no,
that's why I couldn't. I just would watch people sponging a car, and I'm like,
it felt like a step backwards, not a step forward. Yeah. And I would totally agree with you. So we have Eco 1 here. This is in the gallon form. We have a couple gallons of water. We're going to put a few ounces. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and do the cat thing. Guys, this is affordable, okay?
I've always wondered why.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Again, you're working on a $100,000 vehicle. Why do you want less lubrication, less polymer, less everything that's the good stuff to protect the paint? I've never understood. What I just did there, the measuring thing I would have done, I'd have wasted more time, which would have cost me more money, right? Or, you're out there, you're working on your own car, and you're like, oh man, it's kind of cold in my garage.
Who isn't intellectual enough to go, after a few times of measuring a cap, I can mentally go, hey, I'm pouring, I can kind of mentally figure out how much I'm pouring.
Yeah, and
I think the average human being, most people can figure that out.
We all know how to salt our food.
Well, yeah, there you go.
You know how to salt your food because you've been eating food for quite some time. Right. You start to understand what you like, what you don't.
Well, it's like, oh, you got to do this. Like, well,
we got a bucket here, 2 Versatiles. If you need more, and this is what I say all the time, if your car's extremely dirty, you're going to need 10 towels in there just to protect yourself, because you may have a situation that you're really trying to do it on too dirty of a vehicle. Mm-hmm. So let me tell you my thoughts. There's a cutoff to this, personally.
Yeah.
Okay? If I come up and there's mud and there's dirt, everything's flung on the side, use a pressure washer, use a garden hose, get that stuff off. Just because you have this and this is what you're choosing doesn't mean you can't rinse the car off. Mm-hmm. Let me give you another thing. If I come up, I'm in a dusty area. You're in Phoenix, Los Angeles, San Diego, in Florida in some places near the beach. If you're battling dust or sand, get a blower out. and blow your car off.
There you go.
You know, if you don't have a hose, if you don't have a pressure washer, because just because you go this route doesn't mean you can't rinse the car off.
And or some people are like, well, how do you clean the wheel?
Use the pressure
If you
washer.
want to clean your wheel, yeah, go ahead and use
The
it.
deepest clean.
You can, right? You can spray on a towel, you can spray on a wheel, and you can go and wipe. You can, right? You can do a couple towels, you can change that. Or, yeah, if you got a lot of brake dust, you got a power washer, go ahead and spray them off.
You're not going to get as deep a clean. Yeah. Let's be clear about something. This is kind of what I've despised around this conversation. Don't tell me I'm going to get a deep a clean with this as a pressure washer. It's a different thing. It's allowed to be different. Too many people are like, well, that's what I did at my shop for 15 years. Well, then you didn't have the cleanest cars in the city. Plain and simple, because you're not going to beat a pressure washer with this.
And even we would not use a pressure washer in somebody's garage, right?
Exactly.
So a lot of our mobile service is around in a garage. And so when you bring it in here, right, we'll see some areas, right? You can see what cracks, there's innate areas that, maybe you don't get 100% with a rinseless.
Well, let's think about it common sense wise. If I put a pressure washer into all these cracks and crevices on this grill, what's going to be cleaner? That pressure washer or me? How many of us are going to be able to take a towel and get into all these? So it's just common sense.
Yeah, so that if somebody is concerned, maybe that's where you do that keg, right? If you do the keg, you got a little pressure. It's not a pressure washer, right?
Yeah, I mean, we would get that up to 100 PSI.
Sure, you can get a little.
And you know, you're 40, 50, 60, 80, whatever the number is, I forget on the chuck. You can use it that way. And again, this doesn't make this a bad method. It means stop believing the internet hype. Let's put our thinking cap on for 5 seconds ago. This definitely has its place. Car collection, I can't move the cars. This is what you got to do. I'm going to a car show. Stop with the quick detail spray. Use something like this. This is formulated to clean your car, clean dust, clean things off your car. This is what the car show guys should be using. If you're in the wintertime, you're in Wisconsin, you can't go outside and pressure wash. Okay? You want to keep your Porsche nice.
Right?
Northeast.
We hear it a lot.
This is a great option. But this idea that I'm going to run an elite shop on this method, you're not an elite shop. Plain and simple. Okay? This has a place. So let's get into it. We've put a couple ounces in the bucket. We got a couple towels soaking. Now we're going to talk about going ahead and pre-soaking the car down. Okay? You're going to see me do this a lot. Like you said, I'm the master shaker. Give it a little, give it a little shake. And now, this is where I'm not going to be cheap. Okay? If I have to go, we're using our 16s, we sell 32s, tint keg, pump sprayer, doesn't matter, right? You can use our Marilex that we have in our store. I am going to soak this down because this is the cleaning solution. When is it negative to put more cleaning solution on a dirty vehicle? We use a foam cannon. That's a lot of soap. We get to this and we're like, how do I use a capful? Why are we cutting a corner on something that's not as efficient as a pressure washer? You can't cut a corner here. So I think that's one of the things I want to get across when we're doing this is I love this method. We use it all the time, but we use it what we would call the hybrid method. Be intelligent about what you're looking at. We've talked so many times on our videos about assessing the car you're working on. This car's in pretty good shape, but it is dirty. I know it's going to be hard to pick up on camera. You got this gray color, it's going to hide, but you can see here.
You got some dirt. Yeah, you should be able to see some.
Yeah, and so because we're on camera here, one of the things that I tell people is that the camera will do some things to make it so you guys can watch it a little better. Would I probably start on the roof if I was doing this in my shop or doing it in someone's garage? Yeah, I'd probably start on the roof. For the camera, we need to kind of start where everybody can see the process. Now, because we didn't cheapen out here, and this is where another thing for me, often guys wring their towel too much, okay? As you can see, my towel, and because I have a high GSM, lower pile towel, this is very heavy. This is filled with a lot. This, grabbing it and squeezing it as hard as you can is a big no-no, okay? Because now I've taken too much solution out. So I always grab it, give it a light squeeze. I still got some drops coming off. That's about good for me. Okay, that's where I stay. So I'm going to fold it into 4s. One of these things is always check that you don't have any debris on your towel. And we're going to go ahead and very lightly, and one thing you'll notice about Eco1 or about any rinseless product that we're going to put on the market, the first and foremost thing is not the word polymer that you're worried about. It's the lubrication in the formula. Lubrication is what keeps you from scratching paint, okay? Now, this car is just a perfect example of a great rinseless opportunity, waterless opportunity, well cared for, but still dirty, okay? This is the kind of guy that wants his vehicle to look a certain way. He wants to drive it around in a certain way. Many of you out there are like this. I'm like this with my vehicles. Rinseless and waterless is a good opportunity for me in my own personal vehicles because of the care that I take, right? So I'm always flipping the towel. And the good thing is, even out here, you can see, because this car is cared for, we're not dealing with a lot of bugs. You know, which you would deal with on some other cars we've worked on. But there's no pressure. When I'm on the front of the car, it gets hammered. I may flip it a little bit more. But this is what we're talking about. Now, to really care for this on an elite level, you're going to have to work your towel into this grill to get it clean, right? And this is where it becomes highly inefficient, right? And so it's not always the most efficient way if you're trying to do an elite process, but it's still something good. Now, I'm not going back to the bucket here. I'm just going to put this on the side.
So why? Why didn't you go dip it down in the bucket like we would have washed it or something? You know, like let's just get some more product on the.
We've been showing.
You got a grid guard in there, don't you? Come on, there's a time you got to make sure you get a grid guard, get that back.
So I think you know we're a 1 bucket method. Stay organized. I still have the whole yellow side of that towel I haven't used. I don't want to infect the bucket. We'll throw a couple more towels in there because we'll need some more on this vehicle. But now we're going to go and we're going to dry it, okay? You can use the Versatile, you can use a twist loop, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and do something here a lot of people don't show. I'm going to take what we call a drying aid, okay? This is our Slick product. Couple spritzes. Because we have so much lubrication, I like adding the extra protection. Again, this is where we kind of think about, what am I doing this for? Well, I'm doing this to get the best result possible. And I always will vote 100% of the time for adding more protection. 100% of the time. And one of the great things is the slickness that's left behind, not only by Eco1, but also by Slick with a little bit of drying aid action. Don't cut a corner here. If you would use a drying aid as a final step of a foam cannon wash, why wouldn't you use it as a final step for rinseless? Again, another thing I see skipped of elite processes. This is an elite process. We now have a perfectly clean hood. We're going to go ahead and hit the bumper. I need a little more Slick here. And again, because I have Eco1, I'm just giving it a couple sprays, 1 spray on my towel, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to finish this out. I think, again, there's a big frustration. Guys, like you said, they see the sponge, they're never going to do it, right? They're never going to.
Not on the sponge.
And so
that's why I joked about going back to the bucket, right? Because they would say, yeah, just go dip it back in the bucket, move over to this other bucket. Magically, I've got a great sponge back working on the car. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, well, this magically the dirt's all going to fall to the bottom 100% of the time. That doesn't happen. You can look in your own bucket. You don't have to take my word for it. And the reality that we face is there's just an elite level way to do things, and then there's people acting elite. This is an elite process. I'm going to go ahead and get my glass, if you would, for me. Go ahead, and I need a little step stool to get that top.
Well, I was hoping you could get it. My arms didn't reach far enough.
I know. So you're like, I just think I might skip this.
No, I was hoping you'd hit it.
I was trying. So, you know, one of the things, man, is know your process and know what you can accomplish with this and what you can't. And again, if you're in the wintertime, this is way better than missing out, right? Than missing out on keeping your car clean. So don't get me wrong there.
You know, and I've enjoyed, as I've talked to you about, is, you know, waking up on a Sunday morning, going outside, want to clean up the car for the weekend, just enjoy 30 minutes, have some coffee, clean up the car. This is what I love to do. I'm a rinseless, using Eco1 hybrid rinseless. You know, and let's define, right? Why do we say hybrid rinseless? It's not actually on the label, but this is more of a hybrid style. Different than a traditional rinseless.
Yep.
And it's not waterless. It's a waterless more in a sense of the way you're spraying out, pre-spray, heavy on the pre-spray. Then we're coming through with a more of a traditional rinseless.
Yeah, but
minus the sponges, minus all those chances of actually causing some issues. And with these versatiles and the way we do it, this is easy. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Super relaxing.
Yeah, one of the things I think is the motto that we have as you and I doing more of these videos. One of the things that I really pride myself on is that if your process is right, detailing a car is pretty relaxing. Mm-hmm. We don't see that on the internet. We see guys getting stressed out over the advice that they've gotten, and I'm going to scratch my car. Or they are told that they have to work a towel. You know, you got to pick it up, and then, if it's not the right formula, if you don't have a lot of lubrication, if you're using the wrong towel, if you're using the wrong stuff in your bucket, you have to be really worried. In this situation, what's there to worry about? There's nothing.
Nothing.
You know, using modern chemistry, using a great towel, using all these different things, it's a real relaxing process, right? And so what people will notice with me, I think probably as we put more videos out, I'm always in favor of using more and not less. Because let's say it takes you $1.50 to wash your car with the proper chemistry and going a little bit above and beyond. Okay, you're going to wash your car for $1 instead of $1.50. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of the crazy things we've seen leak into this world, where everybody's trying to think that the car owner out there, the detailer owner out there, they're just trying to save a buck. And to me, that's just a wild behavior when you're working on a $100,000 vehicle.
Let's talk about another thing that is unique to Eco1. Gratification, that instant. I know I've put some protection down, right? I feel it on the vehicle. I think that's one of the extra things of Eco1 that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, you just get to this place where, you know, we work on a lot of expensive vehicles. You and I in our career, still today, here's a customer's car here in your local area. This is an expensive car. Our chemistry, our thought process comes, cars are getting more expensive. Hell, an F-150, $70,000. You know what I mean? Everyone's paying more. We got to elevate and take our experience. I'm going to go ahead and let you do the top there. And take our experience and say, there is a better way to do all of that. And that's what we want to show. Like, this is a really great process and something that I really do enjoy doing rinseless and waterless hybrid. But I don't enjoy seeing all the bad advice that I know is just scratching the hell out of people's paint when they think they're doing the right thing because they saw something on the internet and somebody told them they used to detail back in 1980. You know, we hear that all the time. You know, the reality is this is modern. This is an evolution. And so people know this is the kind of dirt we're picking up. That's not going to be reintroduced anywhere on the car, right? So this is now getting flipped. When I got to the bottom, this is what makes the one bucket method so efficient, is once I get any kind of level of dirt, which is normally picked up towards the bottom of the panel, that's the last time that towel comes anywhere near anything on the paint, right? So again, I just wiped the very bottom at the end. We have all this dirt. This is now done. And we're on to the next one. And we're on to a completely clean side.
How'd you get to this point of kind of figuring this out? And was there a moment where you go, wow? Because I never, I always, as a waterless and microfiber towels and all that, right? We'd flip and go and just toss away. You know, we were always constantly, it didn't matter. You know, people would always go, well, how many towels you go through? Listen, you go
through a lot.
10? I mean, why does it always matter with people going, how many towels you're going through? So where did you start learning about, all right, then let me flip and let me reuse and let me do all 8 sides?
Well, I think it was just an evolution, you know, where I was trying to find a way to not, you know, teach people that were going to join my team, have a consistent process, have a consistent thing that I could teach everybody that made sense. But the reality was I didn't want to scratch cars. I mean, we're heavy paint correction guys. Mm-hmm. You know, you wet sand a whole car, then you cut it, then you do an intermediate step, then you do a finish step, and somebody's got 15, 20, 30 hours, 50 hours into a car. The last thing I want to do the next time I see it is scratch it. Mm-hmm. I just put all this time, the customer's paid all this money, all of these kind of things, and then you just, everyone watching has common sense. Every single one of you listening has common sense. Just think about it. I'm gonna have a rinse bucket with this thing at the bottom that's supposed to be magic. And you're gonna tell me you're gonna stick a dirty mitt into something and it's not gonna get dirty. And I'm never gonna have it get dirty because I have this magical rinse bucket. Well, you must have some magical water at your house. You know what I mean? So I've never had the magic water. So I just would watch dirt float in my rinse bucket and I'd be like, God, I gotta be picking that up. And so I just evolved, right? I'm not saying I didn't fall into some of the traps at some point and try some things out. We've all done that. But when I tried it out, I just kind of thought through it. I'm like, this doesn't.
It just didn't make sense, right?
Doesn't sit right with me.
It just didn't make sense.
And so, again, this is so efficient. If you're working in your garage, especially when it's not hot out, you notice that I'm going around with slick and I'm spraying right on the panel, right on the glass.
All right, before we do that, we need to, did you do your steps? How do you do your steps over there?
So here's what I'll do. I'll get the paint completely done in this type of world. I'll get the paint completely done, and then I'll take the towel. Once I know I'm never gonna have to use it again on the paint, I'll go ahead and do running boards, different things like that. If I wanna get up in the fender lip.
Nick, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw this in the bucket. I think I can get it. I'm pretty sure all that's just gonna fall all the way to the bottom.
Well, I know one thing, you messed up our glass here with your irresponsible behavior, which tends to happen with Rinseless a lot for me, you know, and you kind of look at this and your towel's gliding, there's no dirt. You really shouldn't have to use more than one drying towel if you go around the whole car. Now, if you're in sunlight or something like that, you have a little bit of a different reality, you know what I mean? You got to kind of work quicker, you know, all those kinds of things. But when you're in a shop setting, when you're in your own garage, you can really do the whole car with Eco 1, come back and start your drying process. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So if you look at, I'm going to actually finish my glass. We'll still come back with glass cleaner because I want to get that final touch. But honestly, this is probably better finished glass than 99% of people can achieve. Just using Eco 1 and a couple spritzes of slick. If I'm in a hurry, I can call that good. I'm not going to have a bunch of streaking and things like that. And for me personally, you know, I have a BMW I love at home. Being able to just kind of chill in my garage, you know, no matter the weather, that's where this comes in for me. Obviously, it comes in on business. But I'm telling you, if you think that you're just going to run a business or you're going to 100% take care of your car like this, I think you can do it if you stay on top of it. But you start to get into bad weather, man.
Yeah.
And it gets really tough. I'd rather you just have a garden hose for a rinse. If you don't have that, buy yourself some more towels. Spend money on towels.
Yep.
Okay? Buy high quality ones. Learn how to care for them. They will last you a very long time if you care for them properly.
So you're talking about inclement weather in a sense, dirty vehicles, you know, rinseless. People, what about the fender wells? What about if I got stuff in it, right? Okay.
Yep.
Let's go back to that theory that we had with the front. And
Yeah, I mean,
can
look.
you? And yes, the answer is yes. Let me go ahead and
Yep.
stage it up. The answer is yes. Unfortunately, I gave away the answer. But, I grew up cheating off of Cliff Notes. You remember those?
100%.
Fuck yeah, those were. So, can you do a rinseless if you have stuff in the fender well? Yes. Do you need to spray a lot more product and have designated towels to go into specifically just the fender well? Yes.
Yeah, and that's what you would call, as a professional, your dirty towels, right? Towels that have been downgraded, towels that are at the end of their life, towels that a lot of guys cut the corner of the towel to know that when they see a cut corner off the towel, they know that that's never to touch paint or the interior or any sensitive spots again. It's been downgraded to engine bays or fender wells or wheels or whatever the case may be. And so I think one of the things that you're saying here is all this stuff is possible, right? You've been proof of that. I mean, it's not like you live in Southern California with no weather.
Right.
You live in Tulsa, but you used a lot of product when you ran up on dirty fender wells. You used a lot of towels.
Because you still got to be safe.
Yeah, and you still want to get a good result.
And you want a good result.
So that's where I think a lot of people have this weird mindset about rinseless and waterless, and I get it. I just think there's so much confusion. Number one, I have never used a 256-to-1 dilution that I ever called good. I've used them all. Hell, I tested for some of those companies, and I'd be like, yeah, I had to 10x this. Well, what do you mean? You don't know how to use it? It's like, is it more likely that I don't know how to use it, or this is just the way it is? Right? Like, I'm taking care of car collections. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to give you feedback, and you want to go the minimal amount. And I think it's kind of disrespectful to the car owner and the professional. So we're going to find a way for this to be 30 cents instead of 60 or 90 cents per use. Because remember, if you never dirty your bucket, that solution's good all day.
Yep.
Right? It's not like it goes away just because you're working, you take care of your car and then you got to do your wife's car. It doesn't magically go away, right? As long as you don't introduce dirt again to that bucket, that solution's good all day. Take a sponge and dip it in there. Would I use that solution all day on multiple cars? I wouldn't use it on one car. And I never have. Did I give it its fair shake? You bet I did. Because that's our job, right? I need to see what it's about. But as soon as I started to drag that across the panel, I was like, count me out. So this is just a little bit elevated above that. So now you asked what I do on these running boards on something like this to pop out. I have a dirty towel, okay? I know it's done on paint for the day. I'm gonna go ahead and get the running boards popped out, and I'm gonna go ahead and give them a wipe.
Give it a little pre-spray? Go straight in and wipe.
This is, again, an assessment. This one needs some pre-spray.
That's what I was saying too. They're not like caked on, right? This is where people go, they're dirt. Is it dirt? Yeah, it's dirt. But it's not like clumped up dirt. It's just dirty, right?
Yeah, it's just dirty.
It's dirt that's just in there. So I like to come through a pre-spray too. Then take your towel, you just basically just go through and start scrubbing away.
Yep, and a lot of times if it's the right place to do this, you'll just need to do a simple wipe more than you'll need to do a scrub, right? Almost like just one fell swoop here will kind of get these right. Although one of the things I get on these is these hinges. Those hinges can look kind of ugly when you open your door.
Absolutely.
So Marty, now we have those hinges cleaned up and our process is pretty much done.
Yeah.
This to me, to kind of recap everything, the reason we showed this video, again, we didn't move the camera around a whole bunch. We're not trying to shoot something fancy. We're trying to get to the point of what's an actual elite process when you choose this. It's not a sponge, is it? It's never been that, okay? And I'll tell you why. Let's make this very clear. When I take that sponge and it's dirty and I put it back in my water, the idea that there's gonna be no dirt floating around and that there's some magic sauce that's gonna bring everything to the bottom, that's not how chemistry works.
And that's the way it's presented though, right? Like, oh man, all good, you can scrub, you can even scrub onto a grid guard. And the magic, there's even, there's grid guards that keep things down.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow it to go back up.
Yeah, so think about this. 2 to 3 towels and be 100% safe, or risk it with one sponge. Nobody's saying put 500 towels in here. That's a big expense. 3 versatiles, 3 high quality towels, you can do an elite process on a $100,000 car. And what I want to say is, this took us a long time and a lot of years to say this is elite, right? We went through all this. We're able to share this and say, hey, we made mistakes. We had to learn when nobody was doing this. When you and I were doing this, you're what, 2008 doing this, right? I'm around 2010. This wasn't all figured out.
Nope.
Right? So this was us learning. A lot of you professionals watching us, you were learning along that time too. So you get to this point. So all my screw ups and the people like us that were at the beginning of this thing gets us to this point in 2023 where we're all looking at each other going, okay, we just have a better way.
Much better.
Right?
Much better.
And so remember, there's always a difference, right? Elite and then this other way where I'm trying to cut a corner or save a nickel or whatever. If you want to take care of your car on a high level, this is a more elite process. And I think that's the point of our videos a lot of times.
Absolutely. Absolutely.